Now before we start talking about the Honda BR-V, and that's exactly why you clicked on this video, right? Let's give you a few facts of history. When Honda came into India in 1998, the Honda City was a breath of fresh air. And when everybody else was driving around with carbureted S-Teams and Zens, features like electronically adjustable rear view mirrors was really, really big. And the Honda City has genuinely been loved, both by the people who buy it and in terms of overall sales. Sadly, you cannot say that for most of the other Honda products that have come to India in the last few years, and sales have not been that great for a few especially. And Honda has always had a big chink in its armor with no diesel SUV for the mass market. Now though, after years of promising us a diesel SUV, Honda finally has one for India. And this is it, the all-new Honda BR-V. Now, one of the biggest USPs of the BR-V is the fact that it is a 7-seater. So let's talk about space first. Now, as you can see, and I'm not a very small person, I still have about 6 inches of leg space in front of me. Now, we mostly see a lot of manufacturers scooping out the front seats, and Honda has done a little bit of that, which gives you a sense of how long and how large this platform actually can get. There's also enough headroom here for most people, but when you try to put 3 people next to each other, well, 3 large people like me, it was a little uncomfortable. But 2 people and a child, that would be great, ideal for a family, a modern urban family. You also get rear AC vents, which in a country like India, as we've seen in the past, is a complete and utter boon. Now, as an added benefit, the middle row seats also has a 60-40 split. And if you see how easy this is to get in the back seat, all you need to do is pull this lever, and that's it. Now, getting into the last row is quite easy, and if you're just going for a short trip, there's enough space here for 2 adults. That said, I would, in my personal opinion, avoid longer, especially cross-city trips. Now, normally having a 3rd row of seats would mean almost no luggage space, but as you see here, Honda has actually done a pretty good job with the boot, and a really large camera bag fits in quite nicely, which means your weekend luggage would probably be very comfy here. If you really need to put more, all you need to do is pull these seats down like this and push this, and you get the largest boot in its category. Now, one of the biggest reasons the Mobilio failed in India is due to the fact that it had the same dashboard as the Brio and the Amaze. And although this is based on the same platform as those 3, the dashboard is completely different. We like the way that everything is very horizontally laid out, like these silver accent pieces here and here, and everything offsets really well with the all black interiors. Now, the top of the line car does come with leather options, leather wrapped steering wheel, gear knob, and the side consoles. Now, what is really disappointing, and trust me, I cannot stress this enough, is the fact that the BR-V is just not at par in terms of gadgets and equipment as its competitors. Forget its competitors, the BR-V is not even at par with cars that are a segment or even 2 segments lower than it. All you get is a Bluetooth-enabled infotainment system, a USB port there, and auxiliary cable here. And that's it. You do get climate control, but do you want auto headlamps? It doesn't have it. Auto wipers? Nope. Do you want parking sensors and a rear view camera? Considering the fact that this car is really long, it's a must-have, right? Well, it does not have it. And honestly, I cannot think of what Honda was thinking. Forget about things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but these are essentials in 2016. And if they really want to make a mark, these are the things that they should have had. The BR-V is not really a SUV in its ideal sense, as it does not have the road presence that the likes of the Creta or the Duster have. But if there was ever a car that truly described the word crossover, the BR-V would be it. So, what do we like? Well, for starters, the large chrome grille looks quite premium,
and so do the headlamps with a daytime running light, projector low beam and halogen high beam sections. We also like the silver skid plates that you get on the bumpers on the highest variant. Honda has given the BRV a set of 16-inch wheels as standard, and the machine finished ones that you see here look quite well suited. All said and done, where the BRV does really suffer is the fact that it looks too much like the Mobilio from the side, which in turn makes it look like a van or an MPV. Yes, there is a plastic cladding that runs along the sides along with a chrome garnish on the bottom of the door, and you also get roof rails, but all these details still do not hide the fact that it just isn't as aggressive as you want for this category. Coming to the rear, the same MPV-ness continues with a very narrow and tall tailgate. The tail lights though are quite interesting, even though they don't light up completely like you would expect them to. We are sure that some aftermarket maker will change that very soon, and that actually could be a new signature look for the BRV in the near future.
Now, like all modern compact SUVs in India today, the Honda BRV also gets a petrol and a diesel engine. So let's start with the petrol first, as that's the one we drove earlier in the day. A 1.5 litre engine that we're used to in the likes of the City and the Mobilio, with 119 PS of peak power and 145 Nm of peak torque. But that's old news as well. What's new in this car is the new 6-speed gearbox. Now, just like the 5-speed unit before it, gear throws are really crisp and the clutch action is really light, which makes the BRV a really easy car to drive in start and stop traffic, especially in the city. Now, the engine, of course, we have driven across various cars in the past, and just like those cars, there is enough power to potter about, and they sound really great when revved hard. Power delivery is pretty much linear across the range, with the exception of a slight power lag in a slower start-stop situation. But it's nothing to really worry about. Now, the petrol engine will also come with a Cvt Gearbox. As with the Honda City, it also gets paddle shifters. How is it? Well, pretty much like a Cvt is. In standard mode, it does sort of cry about a little bit when revved, but push it into sport and you can actually feel the shifts as you go through the pedals. Would we recommend one over the manual? Well, that's a matter of choice now. If you want a slightly easier car to drive, opt for the automatic. If you're still a petrol head like we are, you take the manual. It's pretty much as simple as that. Apart from that, in terms of the way they move, in terms of power delivery and fuel efficiency, they're pretty much on the same level. But the petrol is not what everybody is going to buy and ask about. That would be the diesel engine. Again, as we've driven before, the 1.5 D-Tech is a 4-cylinder turbocharged unit, 100 PS of peak power, 200 Nm of peak torque, everything old stale figures. Now, of course, this isn't the most powerful engine in its range, and it does feel. The BRV diesel is just not as quick as some of the other competitors out there, and just doesn't feel as swift in terms of power delivery. But that said, fuel efficiency is at its peak at over 21 kmpl, which is much higher than its competitors. Now, the diesel is also as easy to drive as the petrol, because unlike other cars, the clutch on the diesel is also quite light, and start and stop traffic is not a problem. That said, NVH levels are slightly higher, but it is not something to be concerned about, as NVH levels in a diesel are bound to be higher than its petrol counterpart. Now, considering the fact that the BRV will mostly be used by families, ride quality is of paramount importance. And the BRV, especially at slower speeds, is quite nice, and you do not have much thumping and thudding when you go through potholes. Go slightly faster though, the ride quality in the front seats remains great, but rear passengers might slightly be thrown about. That said, the BRV's overall ride quality is certainly not rolly, and it will definitely not make you feel uncomfortable over long distances. Now, the Indian audiences have been waiting for a Honda diesel SUV for a long time, but the BRV, in our opinion, is just a little underwhelming. The ideal audience for this car is the family man or family woman who has a new family, couple of kids, couple of dogs, maybe parents to take care of, and the one who likes to go out on road trips or weekends out regularly. The Honda BRV might not do well in India for a couple of reasons. But it is not because of the fact that the BRV looks too much like the Mobilio, or that on paper the engines do not have the kind of power its competition has. Yes, we know Indian families love a lot of space, and the 7-seat layout would work great for the average Indian joint or nuclear families. But in terms of equipment and features, the BRV just is not there yet, and the modern Indian buyer will just not accept it. So does the BRV still have the potential of being a success? Yes, it does. In fact, it could actually be as big as the Honda City is. But for that to happen, Honda might have to take a cut on its profits and price the BRV extremely competitively if it has any chance of making a dent in the Indian compact SUV segment.